Like so many of us right now, I'm currently stuck in quarantine. During this time of great uncertainty, where vast swathes of the population find themselves locked within their homes for fear of the global unknown, I'm finding solace, as I so often do at times like this, within the worlds of video games. Animal Crossing New Horizons is, of course, the most obvious title that has occupied the majority of my time for the past week or so. Pottering about on a beautiful deserted island where even the worst of the weather is still aesthetically pleasing and the denizens, shopkeepers and wandering visitors are carefree and always pleased to see you is a much needed place of respite. No doubt everyone watching this video is either taking part in their own island construction projects or at the very least is close to someone who is. I genuinely can't think of a more perfect video game to be released at this exact moment in time than Animal Crossing. An experience so firmly rooted in the core values of nature and comfort than anything else available on any other system. Social, intimate, loving, pastoral, and caring. It's easily one of the best games of the generation, just as much due to the circumstances surrounding its release as its impeccable and highly polished design. But as much as Animal Crossing is bringing me joy, there's another game that I found myself gravitating towards during my time in lockdown. 2015's cult PlayStation 4 classic, Bloodborne. For anyone who's had the pleasure of experiencing From Software's haunting RPG, it should come as no surprise why the developing global situation has brought me back to the world of Bloodborne. To summarise the game's narrative simply, which is, I'm aware, to do it a great disservice, Bloodborne sees the Victorian-era inspired town of Yharnam thrust into a recurring event known locally as the Hunt. As residents of the city become afflicted by a blood-borne disease that twists them into horrific beasts, you play as a hunter tasked with clearing the streets of monstrosities and finding the source of this cursed plague. Played upon release, Bloodborne's tale of a city under lockdown as a vicious disease burns through its populace was a dark tale of fiction. Played today, the game feels more like an extreme interpretation of current day events.
Don't you worry about me.
I don't know why I wanted to play Bloodborne again. I was told to work from home an entire week before the United Kingdom went into an official lockdown, and on that first day at home, I found myself taking the game off my shelf and popping it back into my PlayStation 4. I've been watching this virus since January. I'm a hypochondriac at the best of times and a diagnosed sufferer of anxiety, so this was always going to register on my internal radar way before it did for any of my close friends or family. I spend the majority of the winter months every single year panicking daily about catching norovirus. I guess what I'm trying to say is I've been worried about catching airborne afflictions before it was cool to do so. Honestly, the last thing I thought I'd want to do when in this situation is to be reminded of the situation. Video games have the power to transport us anywhere we desire, whether that be a world based on fiction or fantasy. With all that choice available to me, why would I opt for a video game that even slightly resembles the reality I'm trying so desperately to escape from? I think that comes down to a few different reasons. The first is that there is something inherently cathartic about the way Bloodborne's core mechanics are interlaced with its narrative and level design. Bloodborne's main goal, as it is in every entry within From Software's Soulsborne franchise, is progress. This is a severely difficult video game, one that is relentlessly punishing and pulls no punches. It has no tutorial and a difficulty curve so steep you can hang a picture of a werewolf on it. The level design of each distinct area is a labyrinth of various paths, hidden areas and shortcuts that loop the player back to previous safe havens. Battling through hordes of enemies, surviving the onslaughts of mini-bosses and humongous bosses alike, navigating the twisted streets of Yharnam in an attempt to reach your next lamp in order to save your progress is fundamentally the pursuit of permanent progress. Whereas so many games in this wide-ranging medium rely on the use of ever-increasing numbers and flashy, colourful bars to indicate advancement, Bloodborne achieves a greater sense of accomplishment via the simple act of navigating through an area successfully without succumbing to creatures of the night. It's exhilarating, wondrous, but most of all, cathartic. More so now than ever before. Our current reality is filled with uncertainty. There is a palpable sense of danger that lurks behind our sealed doors, one that is invisible and impossible to predict. I feel completely hopeless in the face of this situation. In Bloodborne, faced with a very similar sense of foreboding dread, I am given the ability to taunter it. I can slice at it, I can cut it to ribbons and slay it with my blood-soaked blade. It is challenging, but in a way that makes that coveted progress feel so much more rewarding. Clearing the streets of Yharnam of sickness and disease isn't a power fantasy in a traditional sense, for being imbued with untouchable power would cease to make any progress feel meaningful. I am weak in the face of the task I have been given, and yet I persevere anyway regardless. To survive through this ordeal is a testament to my own resolve. Slaying, exploring and progressing through Bloodborne instills within me a sense of comfort and control that allows me to feel calm despite everything that's occurring around me. It is a blessing in this current global climate. As I carry forward, I am permanently joined by the messages of those who have been here before me. These small snippets of text left by players as they have progressed through the game and delivered to me by tiny groaning monstrosities are a treat to discover. Some are kind, telling me that I can do this and assuring me that everyone believes in me. Some are helpful, informing me of upcoming enemy ambushes or hard to find items. Some are literally out to get me, lulling me into a false sense of security so that I will lose a substantial amount of my precious progress. But I'm not alone. It feels so important in that moment to know that. To feel like no matter what awaits me around the next corner, we're all in this together. We've got this. It's time for wondrous enlightenment, Hunter. No beast is too formidable on the night of the hunt. Fundamentally though, I believe like any good fiction, Bloodborne currently serves as a mirror for my own situation, providing me with a fantastical interpretation of current events that allow me to explore my own emotions within. There are a lot of quiet, introspective moments to be found within Bloodborne as I wander the streets of Yharnam in relative silence, save for a monstrous howl or the peaceful crackling of an unseen bonfire. The plague of blood that afflicts its residents is a horrendous disease, one that far outweighs the real-world equivalent I'm making comparisons to, but there's something about that, I think. How in the game it doesn't present itself as an invisible threat, but as a physical one. A hulking monstrosity that crawls over a wall and lunges at you with sharpened claws and blood-soaked teeth. A regular man, enraged by bloodlust, contorting into an elongated horror. What better to reflect upon than an interpretation of a primal fear? What better therapy than to time a well-placed strike, to fell this withered beast where it stands and feel, for no matter how brief a moment, so perfectly in control. The greatest lesson Bloodborne has taught me is patience. It doesn't matter how often I die, or how lost I get within the winding streets of Yharnam, or how little I understand its core narrative, conveyed so obtusely through item descriptions and whispers through locked doors. I approach my task of clearing these corrupted streets the same way I approach every day in lockdown. I simply take it one day at a time. There's no space here to thrive. Progress is key, and one step forward is still something to be proud of.